My name is Juliet Joyce Bonura Samuelson, and I was born September the 20th, 1917. I'm from a large Samuelson family and Bonura family. My husband was Italian, and I'm Jewish. I was born in New Orleans, and I was born over a fish market, above a fish market. And I lived on the main street, one of the main streets in New Orleans, over a store. See, there were 7 children in my family, and my 3 uncles lived with us. So that was 10. There was 12 altogether with my mother-in-law. We lived on Rampart Street, above the store. My daddy had a tailor shop, and I played on the streets of New Orleans. The only playground I had was a sidewalk. And when we wanted nickel candy, well, they weren't free with the money then. Times were hard then. And we lived over the store. And my brother and I had to have play money. And so instead of asking my mother and daddy for nickels so we can buy our candy and soda water, my brother and I had a plan. He told me to dance, and he would get his harmonica and I would dance. And we'd have a little dance in the street. And so we saw a big crowd coming. My brother would get his harmonica out and start to play. And I would put on a big dance. I would dance around and have a lot of fun, and a big crowd would come around me. And then after I got through dancing, I bowed to the crowd, and I said, if y'all want to give anything, just throw it on the sidewalk, we'll pick it up. And they did. They threw money at us. Nickels and dimes and pennies. And before you know it, we had about $1.15, $2, sometimes $3. And so we kept ourselves well supplied with money to buy our candy and Cokes with. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I used to like to work with my mother in the kitchen, and I wanted to learn how to cook, and I watched her very closely. And I would tell Mother I wanted to make all the desserts. Let me make pies and cakes to teach me how, and she taught me how to make pies and cakes. And before I knew it, I was a professional. I could really make some humdinger pies and cakes, and everybody loved them. And I set the table for 8. You wonder why I set the table for 8 when there were only 7 of us. I told my daddy says, put an extra plate on the table, Juliet. I says, why, Daddy? I got enough chairs. He says, no, we don't. Set another place and put an empty chair there. I says, why? I says, nobody's going to sit there. He said, there might be an unknown stranger come in. What do you think we're going to do? He'll feel better if a place is all set. He'd come and sit down and relax. I says, oh, that's a fine idea, Daddy. I like that idea. Make him feel comfortable. And so we always had that chair filled up. One of my friends would come in, or one of Pinky's friends, or one of Sophie's friends, or my brother's friends. We always set a nice big table with a large table. All the children would wait for my daddy after he got through eating, because he was the best storyteller in the whole neighborhood. He can really wrap up some good stories. He was a marvelous storyteller. And he could make your hair stand on end with the stories they told. And they all loved him. And they couldn't wait. Juliet, when your daddy's getting through eating, they'd be in line and trying to come up to the swing to hear his stories. We had about 10 kids sitting on a porch, waiting for my daddy to get through eating so they could hear his story. And some of them were very spooky. Oh, my daddy used to make up little daddies. He'd make up the funniest little poems. I'll tell you a real funny one. And it goes like this. I guess you never heard a poem like this in your life. Mr. Umperhow one day thought he'd like to take a sleigh, ride upon the frozen snow. Mr. Umperhow said she would go, listening to the family, of course, including to the family horse. He was a mule, and a thin one too. You could see his ribs like a haystack blue. As luck would have it, as it will, they started from the top of the hill. The hill was slippery. Down they flew. How fast they went, they never knew. It was a mile from the bottom, and the bottom was mud, and they all went down. But they named the big fat Jenny broke her nose. Little Izzy, he got froze. 50 doctors came at once. And when they found they broke no bones, they all howled, ump-ah-ha. That's it. I live at the Highland Oaks. It's real nice here. They have a nice dining room where we eat 3 meals a day. I mean, real nice food. Delicious food. We have a big breakfast, a large dinner. We have dessert. We have entertainment in between meals. They'll play the piano, sing. Sometimes we dance. I danced yesterday. I think I'm 96, and did a little dance out in the... How you like that? I got up and danced, Joe. You know, wiggled around. We're all dancing by ourselves, a bunch of ladies, just ladies were dancing. And the man was playing the piano, you know, so we went up there and we just shimmied. We had a lot of fun. And I walked around the house twice a day. It's about 100 rooms in this house. And I walked the 100 rooms, about the 100 rooms.
Okay.
When I was 90, I had my own exercise class. I taught everybody in the whole Beaumont Hotel on Orleans Street how to exercise and make it fun. I had a lot of laughing. It was not only an exercise class, but we laughed. We did those exercises. I want to talk about my father and mother when they first got married, when they met each other. And they were a very beautiful couple together, and they were made for each other. He was a dashing young man from Chicago. He had a family of 6 brothers there were. And on the other side, my mother had 6 brothers. And my daddy had 6. No, my daddy had 5 brothers. And my mother had 6 brothers. Big families they come from. And my daddy was sent to Donaldsonville to open a big haberdashery. And he sold all kinds of things, blankets and curtains and spreads, just anything you wanted in the household. And my mother went in there with her aunt one day, and her aunt fell in love with my daddy. And she told my mother, she said, see that good-looking guy? I said, I've been trying to make him, but he don't pay any attention to me. Said, boy, maybe you can get him. And my mama hit. When he saw my mama, how beautiful she was, he asked her to marry her, to come see her, and they started to go together. My mama fell in love with him right away. And they had dates. And this thing, my mother lived in 3 rooms, that's all they had. 3-room apartment, little house, a little bitty house with a porch on it. And he would come there in a horse and wagon and pick my mother up. And they'd go in this buggy, you know, and go all around Donaldsonville. And they were very much in love. And finally it ended up in marriage. And they got along real good. I want to tell you about my husband and how I met him. It was a blind date. I didn't have a date. We were going on a picnic, and he happened to come in from out of town. He lived in New Orleans. Let me see, at Loyola University. He went to Loyola University College in New Orleans, and he graduated there. He got his diploma, and he played on a football team. Well, he was in the back of the truck, and I just got in the back of the truck, and he happened to be sitting there. I said, hi. He said, hi. He said, sit down. And right away he took his arm and put it around me. And I said, do you mind removing your hand? So I took his arm off and pushed it on the side. It was very rude. I thought he was trying to touch me, you know, hold me. He said, well, I'm protecting your back from this truck. He said, every time that truck, you hit your back on that iron, which was true. You know, you get in an old truck and you're bouncing along and you're going like this, and he tried to protect my back, and I thought he was being fresh. I'll take it off. He said, I'm just protecting your back from hitting it. And so we went to Willard's Lake. Eventually we had dates and we got married. About 4 years later, I went with him 4 years. That's a long time. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, he didn't ask me. I says, my good for Frank, when are you going to ask me to marry you? I told him that. And he didn't answer me, yes or no. I said, well, I guess you don't want to. You have to answer me. He didn't answer. He had to go ask his mama. So he said, I'll let you know. And the phone rings. He says, you can plan a date for September the something. We married. In the month of September, I remember. And we made a good marriage. Had 4 children later. I'd like to say hello to all the family that were at the reunion. Sorry I couldn't make it because I'm just a little bit too old now. I'm 96. Birthday on September the 20th. And I'm getting along fine, doing fine.